Hello and welcome to Strange Stories. It's great to have you here. We are all about sharing stories of near-death experiences from around the world in the hopes of bringing some light and inspiration to your day. Our daily videos offer a glimpse into what lies beyond this life, and we believe that they can help us all appreciate the gift of life a little bit more. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest videos. Your support means the world to us and helps us continue to grow. And to our returning viewers, welcome back. We're thrilled to have you with us again. So go ahead, grab a cozy blanket, get comfy, and join us for today's incredible near-death experience story.
Good day, fellow seekers. Hello, my name is Claudia Edge, and I've been asked to share an experience with you. That's why I'm standing in front of you. I passed away a number of years ago. I was 30 years old at the time. I'm nearly 70 now, so it's been a while, but it's still vivid. It never abandons you. There's nothing like visiting the other side, and I'd like to tell you about it, as well as some recent events that may be of interest. You know, there's a lot of us out there talking about near-death experiences, and I know a lot of you are looking for answers. Again, I was 30 years old. I was expecting. I was due to give birth any day now. I was getting close to my due date and had a perfectly normal pregnancy. I was a healthy young mother and nothing should have gone wrong, but I kept thinking all day that I should get checked out. I should get checked out at the hospital. It's something I wanted to share with you about instinct and that gut feeling you get. Should I do this? You wonder. Should I refrain from doing so? Should I visit there? Should I take a right? Should I take a left? That sort of thing. Nobody is smarter than you. Your gut instinct is your best answer, and I followed it. I followed my instincts and went to the hospital, explaining that I was not in pain. I'm not sure. I'm not worried, but something isn't quite right, and I'd like to be checked. You know what I mean when I say I don't have any attractions. I have no idea. My attention seeker. They finally said, here's a gown. We look into it. So I entered the examination room, donned the gown, and was only in there for about 5 minutes when I noticed drops of blood on the floor. Then it became more than that. In fact, shock alert here, but if you've ever seen The Shining, you'll remember how the elevator door opens and this rush of blood pours out. It's like buckets dropping. What had happened was my fault, and I'll tell you now because I sometimes forget to mention that it was my placenta, which acts as a filter between mother and baby, regulating the baby, feeding the baby, and doing all the necessary things during pregnancy. Mine had been filling up with blood, and it would have grown bigger, tighter, and firmer as it filled up with blood. And for whatever reason, it was not exiting. So with each pump of blood into it, it tottered and tottered until it exploded. And thank God, I had followed my instincts and was at a hospital when this occurred. Within minutes, an intern was found and he proclaimed, "This lady's got 2 minutes of life left." This is how quickly my life, my family, and everything changed for me. They basically pushed me down on a gurney and couldn't get a heartbeat on my baby, which was very upsetting for a young mother to hear. And my concern was, please, save my baby. They essentially brought a scalpel into the examination room. Again, there was no time for an operating room, anesthesia, oxygen, or even a warm blanket. Even aspirin was out of the question. They restrained my arms and legs before removing my baby. Gory, horrible, terrible. My earlier state of non-pain was no longer present. It was terrible. It was excruciatingly painful. And they had to move my organs out of the way to get to the baby in this horrible room of blood and gore. And at one point, when I was restrained, the only thing I could do was writhe my head back and forth. And as I was going back and forth, I noticed that a nurse was wrapping this gray rope around her arm. And the pain was excruciating when I realized it was my intestines. It was pretty bleak. And everything added up to, I'm out of here when they lifted that little lifeless body away from me. And what I also wanted to express was that the dying process is definitely not fun. But for those of you who are afraid of death, the actual death, the transition from this life to the unknown, I'd like to assure you that this is not a big deal. It felt very familiar, as if I hadn't done it before. Floating felt like muscle memory. In the hospital, I was hitting brick walls. I was having a great time at first, after I had just checked out the body, checked out the room, and went, and my body, let me add. I mean, I was still the same person. Claudia was still my name. My memories, thoughts, and personality were all intact up there. The only thing I'd left behind was this shell, this outer shell, my overalls, my earthwork outfit. It was as if I didn't need it any longer, so I shed it, felt liberated, and explored the hospital. I won't go into detail, but I ended up in a gentleman's room and doing a, thing in front of him, and he had no idea I was there. Then that's when I realized I was no longer alive. I didn't. It was so natural before that, I honestly hadn't had the thought of that. Oh my goodness, I'm dead. So as soon as I thought that, I was in this another place, another dimension that it was instantaneous, and I was in the middle of nowhere. It was difficult to put into words. Earth's vocabulary is extremely limited, and that's one of the difficulties I had in discussing my NDE because I was in this amazing place that was both everything and nothing at the same time. And it was completely pitch black. It was pitch black. It was dark enough that if I'd had a hand, I wouldn't have been able to see it in front of my face. But it wasn't frightening. It wasn't out of the ordinary. It wasn't a bad thing. It was absolutely flawless. I was adored. I felt held, comforted, and cradled within this alive, intelligent being. It knew everything about me and swaddled me like a cherished child, and I was completely content to be in this location. It wasn't long before I heard myself being summoned back to Earth. This was on the opposite side. This is what my immediate experience gave me was a perfect place of total darkness. When I awoke in the hospital, I was a prime candidate for research because I was completely lucid during my death experience. In terms of, oh, she's hallucinating, I had no drugs, nothing, no anesthesia to contend with. Whatever, she's a psycho. That was not the case. This was a teaching hospital after all. As a result, there was a lot of curiosity about what I saw and felt during this experience. So when asked about what happened after you died, who did you see? Have you heard anything? And I didn't know what to say, except that I was in complete peace and perfection in this black space, in this darkness. I also noticed negativity from the researcher who was taking notes on our billboard. With that flash of negativity, I realized this was something I was going to have to do because I couldn't explain it because I'd never heard of such an NDE. What exactly was I? And why wasn't my experience wonderful? Seeing the garden, seeing the river life, the mountaintop, being with grandma, any of those wonderful things that I'm sure you as seekers have heard. It just wasn't there. So if this researcher is going to pause and think, I wondered what my family, friends, neighbors, and those who might judge would think if I spoke openly about this. As a result, I did not. I didn't say anything about it. I didn't say anything about it for the next 25 years. I kept it sacred and within myself until I could grasp it. And I went on with my life as a busy mom with a lot of kids running around. But as they grew, it began to reappear. And I began to wonder again, where had I been? And how come I wasn't that good? Didn't I deserve the kind of heaven that others had, that others talked about in their near-death experiences? And I began to pray about it, and I inquired about it, and I wanted to know who my guide was, and it became a real need for me to figure out why I felt like there was so much more, and why I had only had a recall of, what someone wanted to call the void. And I was like, no, because to me, a void is the absence of something. Something is missing. Because it was so large, I called it vastness. It was truly enormous. It was beyond my comprehension. And I started having dreams. Well, I was having dreams, but what was happening in my dreams was that my guide was appearing in the corner of just regular dreams. I didn't realize it was my guide at the time, but whenever I noticed him, he was doing either strange movements or wearing a strange costume, doing whatever he could to get my attention within this dream while still keeping me asleep. When I did notice him, he'd wave a sign and tell me to pay attention or come with me. That is something we'd practice. Well, he'd practice it on me until I got it. And for some reason, I was now accompanying him. I started getting memory downloads. When I went with him, I was attending what I called spirit school because I was giving, when you ask the big questions, why are we here? What is my goal, you ask? I've heard everything from, we're here to act perfectly and see if we can't, fit into heaven without sin or anything like that. I had a lot of questions like this and needed answers. And so I kept asking, and during these memory downloads in my spirit school, I started getting answers. And I can't claim to be able to easily give you those answers for one thing, because there has to be a foundation of knowledge. I get that now we can move on to the second, third, and beyond layers. So I understand why it's so difficult for the other side to simply answer our questions, because their knowledge is so vast. Our small brain simply cannot handle it. My small brain couldn't handle it. But instead of showing me where I'd gone and the knowledge I'd gained, what I was able to bring back, I was shown a paper cup. And I had an ocean of knowledge in that cup, but it was in small droplets. So for all these years, I've been examining those tiny droplets one by one, but my memory was of being in a clear bubble, sphere, or something similar. And I was traveling through the universe with my guide. I mean, talk about incredible experiences. It was just enough to soak it all in. It was fast, but not lightning fast. But I could see the stars approaching as we approached one. What I discovered is that the stars are aware. They were addressing me. Oh, Claudia's back. They were calling out to me. Oh, how did it go? We've been missing you. Hello and welcome back. So many loving things are coming my way, and I'm trapped in this bubble. It's audible to me. I have perfect vision, and the colors as we got closer to these stars were like fire. It was yellow, pink, and orange, and it was simply incredible. And it would leave a tail as we passed by. But then there would be another approaching star that I'd hear talking to me, calling out to me in praise and wonderment and happiness to see me. It was incredible that I was looking at my guide and thinking, the stars can talk? The stars have come to life. They exist. They're not just a clump of, gases and metal and dirt and whatever else. It was one of my more significant epiphanies, and when I awoke, I thought about it for a long time, and I kept wondering, are the stars aware? There are a lot of questions. I don't have all the answers. I'm still alive. I've only scratched the surface of what I've learned from my NDE. As a result, I'm still looking. I'm out there listening to other podcasters as I try to piece together my own spiritual puzzle. We do have a permanent address. There will be more information forthcoming, but instead of my NDE, I thought I'd give you something a little different today. So I'm trying to remember if there was anything else I wanted to say. I have so much more I'd like to tell you, but we only have so much time here today.